Hi folks, Steven here. You may notice this is a little bit of a different setup than we've had before. I was moving some furniture around and that allowed me to set up so I'm actually sitting on a chair in front of a table. Alright, well, let me know what you think of this, but in the meantime, this is going to be our Pokemon Day weekend. Just kind of realize how awkward a phrase that is, but normally it's just one day of stuff, but of course they sort of spread it out from Friday through today. And there'll be stuff coming throughout the year, of course, but we're going to sort of be talking about what they announced on Friday, some of the stuff over the weekend, and things like that. If you have any comments, please do go put those in. Either if you're watching this live, please do. Otherwise, if you're watching this afterward, we also like those. Alright, so let's take a look here. First off, I have a usual presentation. Alright, so this time what they did is they sort of, I don't know, had, like I said, sorry. So like I said, they had a number of things going on this weekend. It started on Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific, which would be 9 a.m. here in the Central Time Zone. And basically the result of all that, I think it was also wound up being like midnight Japan time, so that was like the official start of Pokemon Day. But they had this big Pokemon Presents, which is basically what they call a Pokemon-themed Nintendo Direct. I mean, that's kind of effectively what it is. And then on Saturday the 27th, they sort of promoted this. They were doing this virtual concert with Post Malone, the well-known rapper slash singer, one of several musicians we're going to be seeing or hearing from throughout the year. So let's start with the Pokemon Presents. That was on Friday. So let's start off with this opening sequence, which had a list of games, technologies, like they would show them, and someone would actually say the name. They would also say stuff like, when we show the anime, they show the anime, or movies, they would show the movies. Which is kind of interesting. I liked some of the obscurities they brought in there. There was the Japanese disposable camera. Back in the days when we had film cameras, there were disposable ones. Technically, there were a few digital ones, but those never went that far. They're talking about the Pokemon Mini. You may remember that I brought that up in my discussion with Anne on Pokemon Channel a couple months ago. But that was a little handheld that was released in the second generation. And they even showed a little bit of Pokédex 3D. That was that early 3DS app where you could take augmented reality photos. One interesting thing I found is that they did sprinkle in some game music. There was like the Route 1 theme, I'm pretty sure, was in there a little bit, and some stuff from the later generations and things, into what I thought was maybe otherwise. I'm not sure if this whole musical thing was done for this. I kind of suspect not, but not really sure. Can't say one way or the other. And while I'm sure that the audience, by and large, enjoyed it, I thought it was maybe a tad long. But I think that's just me being kind of used to and knowing a lot of these things and not having so many surprises. I think I have, it's kind of similar to the reaction I have to the Bump of Chicken video. I forget the exact name of the song. You know, obviously it has production value, like there. It's just that maybe a little too rapid fire to, I don't know. When you only have, well, I should say only, it's 5 minutes, which was about a quarter of the whole presentation, so maybe it was a bit long. I don't know. If you want to cram a lot of stuff in from 25 years, I guess those are the decisions you got to make. Alright, well, let's talk about some of the things they discussed there. First off, they talked about new Pokemon Snap, and that comes out at the end of April, so about 2 months away at this point. First of all, they talked about the vehicle, the Neo 1, which is obviously a relative of the Zero 1, which is the one that you piloted in the original Snap. One thing they did show there is some sort of musical device. We don't really get to see it, so we don't know if it's a flute like in the first game or like some sort of machine or something. But I believe they use it to sort of get the attention of a Hoot Hoot that's in there. Other nice things in this game, you'll be able to edit your photos after you've taken them, so you can zoom in and crop or stuff like that. And of course, being that this is a little more modern than the original Snap, there's going to be online and sharing. So some neat features there. As far as the music, I have a feeling that most of the stuff here a lot of it is going to be present in some form in the final games just because we're so close. I am less confident of that with the other stuff that's going on. All right. Next thing they brought up was Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. So there's been a lot of commentary I can tell about the art style. To be honest, these figures they have here are pretty close to like if you took the sprite art from the original Diamond and Pearl and made it larger. Some people like that, some people don't. Scale in art is always something difficult to manage, and we'll see if they end up tweaking it a little bit. I'm not expecting major changes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tweak some of the models a little bit in the final game. Now, what's interesting is in the actual battles, they use the more normally proportioned stuff that's based on sort of the art, which is, like I said, kind of in keeping with the original game as well. As far as the actual art style, though, I think it does look, even if it's a little, I'm getting more used to it, but like you can tell certainly some work went into it, although it is still very grid-based. Let's kind of see. As far as the music there, they did have some of the Diamond and Pearl intro music and stuff like that. But since this is not coming until fall, I'm guessing that none of that may actually be in the final game. We'll have to see what happens. Yeah, so that one I'm pretty interested in. Diamond and Pearl. We are hopefully, me and Ann are doing a DS game soon. The DS had much more robust sound hardware than the Game Boy Advance. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do there. Okay. Now this is the one I found really interesting because it was more of a surprise. It's kind of the biggest surprise that was in there. Pokemon Legends Arceus. So this is sort of, I guess you could say in some ways, a prequel to Diamond and Pearl. A very, very much a prequel to Diamond and Pearl. Takes place in the early days of the Sinnoh region. And it looks like it has something of an open world quality. As far as what music they did show there, which again, since this game is like practically a year out, since it's early 2022, I'm kind of guessing that the music they have there is very much subject to change. But it did have kind of a more primitive vibe. You can see in the pictures I have up here that we have I think it's a parchment, not a cave drawing of some Piplup. We're not quite that far back. And there's, settlements are going to be few and far between in this game. I'm guessing the town they show probably has some relationship to one of the cities in the Diamond and Pearl games. But it looks like this is going to be more open world. So maybe some Breath of the Wild influence in there. We'll find out more as time goes on. E3 is virtual this year, so I'm sure they'll have a lot more to say then about the Diamond and Pearl remakes and this one. I am kind of interested to see what they could do with other legendary Pokemon / mythical. Arceus is technically mythical because you don't encounter it during the course of gameplay. Let's see. But, depending on what you do, like a Celebi game could be very interesting where you have to go back and forth through time. A Mewtwo game would be, not sure exactly how that would work since it's supposed to kind of be contemporaneous with the original Red and Blue, but that could be an interesting thing. If they did this in Galar, would it be set in medieval times, or Kalos, and what would you do in the? It'd be very interesting if they used the Unova region, since that's based on New York City. I mean, you have several choices of when to set that. Set during the Revolutionary time, during the Industrial Revolution, or something like that. You could do some interesting stuff with that, I suppose. So we'll see where this goes. We're going to learn a lot more about this. This is certainly the biggest, in terms of games, certainly the most ambitious thing out there. And some very nice visuals, I do have to say that. So, okay, so how was this presentation overall? Honestly, it was pretty predictable. We figured they were doing some sort of Diamond and Pearl remakes. Nothing in the Let's Go series, but the Arceus game seems to be the most out there that we did not predict. if there were any rumors about that one. They kept that pretty well under wraps. You know, I mean, it's not something, maybe not super guessable either. Let's see, the intro took up a fair percentage of it, so, you know, if you don't count that intro, which would, I'm sure in a normal case, be a lot shorter. You know, next year's one, if you do that, the intro will not be that long. You know, so make of that what you will. If you like the intro, that's fine. I also kind of realized, thinking about it, there was some stuff that I just realized today wasn't in there. There's no Pokemon Unite, which a lot of folks kind of joked, oh, that's going to be half the presentation, and it wasn't in there. But they also didn't mention the Detective Pikachu game remake sequel for the Switch. Now, given that we have Snap in the spring in April, and apparently sometime probably for the holidays in November, they'll release the Diamond and Pearl remakes. I do think that there's a good chance that maybe that Detective Pikachu stuff gets put out in the summer. It's also possible it's just being held up because they have some sort of, whatever contract they did for the movie somehow has some bearing on the game or vice versa or something like that, and they want to get their ducks in a row. It is technically, the way movies usually work as far as being broadcast on TV, once a movie has been out for 2 years, it can be broadcast on broadcast television or cable. And that's coming up in a couple months, and it's already been almost 2 years since Detective Pikachu. And I think sometime this summer there's a good shot it'll come out on TV, and that would certainly be, you know, if they do release the remake/sequel to the game, that would be some good timing if they can make that match up. All right. But that's kind of my general thoughts about the presentation on Friday. Nothing super surprising other than the Arceus game, but we'll get to some other stuff that they announced there later. But in any case, so the thing I was kind of excited for was the virtual concert on Saturday. So this was Post Malone and 7 p.m. Eastern, so it would be 6 p.m. my time. And, you know, I don't want to say I was totally disappointed. It had some good production values for what was there, but as you can see in this slide, it was 13 minutes long, which I honestly didn't know exactly what to expect. I did try to get the press folks to tell me how long this was going to be. I can kind of see why, since it was 13 minutes, why they didn't tell me. That may not have been the reason. I may not have been able to get that out for one reason or another. But, you know, I haven't done much or gone to much in the way of virtual concerts, but 13 minutes definitely seems like a relatively short period of time. I think it would be at least like half an hour, depending on if they were going to squeeze in, you know, some announcements and stuff like that. As it turns out, they were just the 4 songs, all of which were by Post Malone. 3 of them were ones he previously recorded, and one of them was this new one, Only Wanna Be With You, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I did notice that there were a wide range of reactions, depending on how much you like the CG and what your kind of expectations were. You know, some folks were like, well, gee, there's not much Pokemon to this, which technically there wasn't. I think they could have gone and done a little more with the music. I think, for example, with Celebration, I think it is, maybe they could have, like they did with Only Wanna Be With You, they mixed in some Pokemon music. Maybe in Celebration they could have mixed in like the Hall of Fame music somehow or something like that, and then little touches like that to each of the songs to add a Pokemon music sample as sort of a pseudo remix. Just kind of a thought there. As far as Only Wanna Be With You, that's a remake or cover of an Hootie and the Blowfish song. That was released digitally a couple days ago. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday or thereabouts. As sort of a prep for this. Now the interesting thing, I was looking on iTunes. Apparently, at least in terms of sales there, it's doing relatively well. It's number 8 last time I saw in the U.S. singles chart. If it stays around there, we could see something that actually makes it into like the Billboard charts or something like that. It is technically possible. That would be very interesting. I did take a look at the Apple Music charts. Didn't really see it much on there at all in the top 100 of any territory. I think I saw it like once in the 100 spots. So I'm not sure purchases count more towards chart performance than streams, but it's a little surprising there isn't more But yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about this one. I think only Want to Be With You, if they had been willing to tweak the lyrics a little bit more without making any overt Pokemon references, I think they could have made that one a little bit better as sort of like an Ash Pikachu song or something like that, versus a more general male-female relationship song. So not sure, this may have been something that just sort of came together in disparate parts. It sounds like there's going to be a little bit more coming in. Let's talk about that. Pokemon 25, the album. So this is kind of just the beginning, which may explain why it was a little bit short there. Apparently there's some other stuff. We knew about Katy Perry, but apparently J Balvin is also doing stuff, and I'm guessing that Universal is also going to be using this to get some publicity for some of their up-and-coming artists that they want, of course. Kind of like, to be honest, what was done with especially the first movie soundtrack, where there were some, almost all the acts there were relatively new, even if they were decently well known. I think they're going to do something with this. J Balvin, I don't know a ton about him. I'm guessing he's in his 20s or 30s as well, so they did sort of tease that besides those three that you see on there, there's going to be at least one more superstar from their roster there. We'll see, but they are also planning on putting together a 14-track album that releases in the fall this year on their Capitol imprint. You see the art, of course, subject to change. I wouldn't be surprised if the art there looks a little bit different than the final one. Or if they stamp some of the folks' names on there for the real deal later. But I'm fairly excited about this. I would like to see, there's still a lot of like Pokemon stuff from like the first couple movies and various other things that is not on like streaming services or stuff like that. I'm hoping maybe if we're lucky they announce something for Record Store Day. That would be a fun thing. But we'll kind of have to see there. But this is, like I said, part of a larger project. So if you're disappointed at the 13-minute presentation on Saturday, there is more to come. I think Katy Perry is supposed to be working on a music video of some sort. We'll see there. All right. And of course, there were other things that happened this weekend. Interesting thing, this morning I log into Pokemon Go. I try to play some of it every day. And apparently there's some Team Rocket stuff going on. This is separate from the stuff that ends, I guess, later tonight or early tomorrow morning for the Secrets of the Jungle movie, which we still don't know when that's coming out in the West. Maybe they'll re-bring this all back up. But apparently there's some stuff here that's going on with Team Rocket with Raid Day today, I guess. It'll be interesting. And the higher they fly, so it's interesting. All this stuff points to some sort of flying thing. I haven't gotten through this. It's probably pretty difficult to do so, just given the amount of time. I'm guessing that maybe has something to do either with Ho-Oh or Lugia. Just kind of putting that out there. But today I was able to get an Articuno. I did have one from like last year's Pokemon Go Fest. It's a shadow one that I still need to purify, but here's a more natural Articuno. I was able to do a remote raid battle. There's only 4 of us. We managed to take it down with some time to spare, so that was pretty nice. Articuno has always been my favorite, at least design-wise, of the 3 legendary birds. Usually from the original generation. I love it. Despite not liking cold all that much, it wasn't as bad today as it was earlier this month. But you can see I did in fact catch it. And I did partake in some of the other stuff that's still going on. There's, of course, the Gigantamax Pikachu event. If you wanted to get one of those, you have a very good chance right about now. Apparently, I had not actually caught a Pikachu, or this counts as a separate Pokédex entry. Not sure exactly what's going on there. That's a little bit surprising that I hadn't bothered. But I did manage to catch one of these, and actually a couple on there. Then over on the right, Pokemon Masters, which I've been playing not quite as frequently as Pokemon Go, but still fairly frequently, also has this new, I don't know if they've used this grid system for anything else, but apparently it's this sort of adventure thing you can go on. You can see I've sort of completed the main part, but still have a ways to go on there, where they've brought some of they've been just recently bringing in some of the Sword and Shield stuff in there, and they've got Leon from Sword and Shield. I guess is really, having played through the game, it's clear that he's a bit of a flawed character. But I won't spoil that too much. But that's kind of a neat thing there. All right, let's get rid of our little. Take it a second here. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what comes up in the near future. I am hoping to do some interviews on the music stuff. I don't have the footprint to get an interview with Katy Perry or Post Malone or anything like that. But maybe some of the other up-and-coming artists or some of the writers on some of the songs, I am going to try and get some information on that, and maybe even some interviews if I'm lucky. But that was sort of a recap there. Definitely some things to look forward to. Just what are your thoughts? Please do give us a comment. All right, folks, thanks.